So when I finally got it all finished and all ready, I wanted to put it on GitHub so that other people could also use it and learn from it. A few weeks later, I found that all of a sudden my views were going up to 100,000, and I'm like, where are all these views coming from, right? And they're coming from this random app. So I go into the app, and it's my app, and then I tracked it a little bit more, and I found out it was actually number 16 in the entertainment category in China. I found it on the App Store and all over the place on these random websites without any credit from me.
I'm Chris Ching, and in today's episode, how a 3-time WWDC Scholar winner went from playing Minecraft to teaching himself how to code and then building a top charting app on his first try. The only problem? He didn't get any of the credit because someone had stolen his source code and submitted the app as their own. Hey everyone, it's Chris here, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Nick Grana. And when I first met Nick, I was super impressed with him because not only is he a 3-time WWDC scholarship winner, he's also published apps into the App Store 3 to be exact, and he's also gotten interviewed by Apple. And so when I learned about all of his accomplishment, I just had to speak with him. And did I mention that he's only in first year university? I'm super impressed, Nick. Thank you so much for coming on this chat.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. I spent a lot of time making all of these apps, and it's cool to share all my experiences with them.
Yeah, I can really see that because you put everything up on GitHub, and I think it's so awesome that you share your knowledge and share your code like that. But sometimes it can also be kind of bad. I think we're gonna talk about this a little later on about something that happened. But first, I want to ask you about WWDC because you just came back from it, and I hear you were stranded at the airport.
Yes. So what happened was I went from San Jose to Atlanta. We were here at Atlanta airport, and it was very foggy, and we were just looping. The clock on the airplane was 5 minutes left, and then they just decided to take us to Memphis, which is an hour away.
Wow.
Yeah, so what happened was the GPS tracking apparently was disabled on many airplanes. So they couldn't do a visual landing because of the rain here. So they had to take us to another airport, and then they were trying to get the plane fixed, and they didn't give us a hotel or anything or food. And I was there for 22 hours waiting for a new plane to arrive that actually worked and had GPS so that they could land it.
These things, you can't predict it from happening, but
oh, yeah.
And this was after a whole week of events, right, at WWDC.
Yeah, and
but
between the time zone difference and everything.
Yeah.
It's not very fun.
But I hope you had a great week, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I've always had this question because I can imagine the experience, and I've never been to WWDC myself, but I can imagine if I went, there would be obviously the keynote, and there would be sessions, and there would be mingling, and then the parties and stuff like that. But how does that differ being a WWDC scholar? Do they treat you any differently? Are there things that are only for the scholars?
Yes, definitely. And that's a really big part of it. They give us so much stuff extra because they want us to have a really good experience. So for example, the keynote on Monday, and on Sunday they have what's called the scholarship kickoff, where they have a special event just for scholarship winners. So they will present for us. They'll let us talk directly with engineers and with recruiters, and they get us special food. So for example, last year they took us to the Steve Jobs Theater, and they did a presentation. Tim Cook came out. They presented about the Apple Pencil, Apple Watch, their plan for renewable and recyclable energy. And then after that finished, they let us go inside the Steve Jobs Theater, the lobby, and the engineers were out. We took a group picture with Tim Cook. We got to speak with all the engineers, and then we were able to go the next day to the keynote. And this year, they took us to Discovery Meadow, which is a little bit of a walk from the convention center, and they gave us food trucks. They had all tons of engineers, Siri shortcuts, ARKit, recruiters. I actually met both my recruiters who interviewed me, who set up the interviews for me a few months ago for my 2 interviews. So that was really cool, and they remembered me and everything, which was really nice.
That sounds
Yeah,
amazing. That
yeah.
sounds absolutely amazing. What a great program. And you've been 3 years in a row. Do you kind of see the same faces every year, or are they new
Oh yeah,
faces?
definitely. Sometimes I see people who I saw last year are interns this year, and they're answering our questions at. So it's yeah, it's really interesting to see. Yeah, some people I see every year or maybe every other year. Um, but yeah,
That's great. What a great place to meet people, right?
oh yeah, definitely. Every Apple team is there. People who you see on Twitter like posting cool projects, they're there, and you could just go up to them and be like, "Hey, I saw your cool demo. How did you do it?" And then they'll just do it, and then you could take a picture with them. Um, iJustine was there, who's a famous YouTuber, MKBHD, and I could just go up to them and take a picture with them, like I did last week.
Awesome. And this is only for the scholars at this point?
For at the kickoff, yeah, iJustine was there. MKBHD was at the keynote, but a lot of people come to the kickoff.
That's awesome. And then from that point on, are the scholars just treated the same way, or are there more activities for only the scholars throughout the week?
So throughout the week, we have a special area just for us called the Scholarship Lounge, and that's where all the scholars are. We have a table with Ethernet cables, couches, we're able to talk to each other. We get a special badge that's like a different color than everyone else. So you're just walking and people are just like, congratulations, or they'll come up to you and ask you what you made, and then you can explain it to them.
Oh, that's so cool. What a great program, because they pay for your ticket, they pay for your lodging, and I think the lodging is the most expensive, right? Because,
Yeah.
yeah,
And the lodging is very nice. Like the dorms were, they take us to San Jose University dorms, and I think they're ranked really, really well for dorms in the country. Really nice dorms.
that's so cool. So at the keynote, out of all the things that they announced, what were you most excited about? I think I have a guess, but I want you to let me know.
For me, I think Swift UI is like amazing. It's like a totally new area and way to do things. Also, specifically, I've done a lot of ARKit stuff, so the people occlusion is really interesting, and all the new technologies that came out around there, because like I don't think any other company has like that technology with people occlusion where it could just detect where you are and the depth and then render it based on that.
Yeah, so I saw that, and I myself have never really played with ARKit, so I can get an idea. Like that seems really hard to do, but I mean, you've worked with ARKit a lot, so like how difficult is it to do that sort of stuff, the people occlusion and the motion capture? Is it like it's really amazing that they managed to do that?
Yeah, I really think so, because there's just so much hardware and software talking directly together. I remember in 2017 when they first announced the ARKit, I went up to an ARKit engineer and he helped me convert my playground from 3D into AR. And I asked him, how long have you guys been working on this project? And he's like, since I've been working here, we've been working on this project. And he said he's been working there for, I think he said like 3 years or 4 years. So
Wow.
like that was just when it was just announced, and they're working on all this other stuff behind the scenes that we don't even know about. But yeah, I think the really cool thing about ARKit is like if eventually we have AR glasses, then you could like you don't need like physical objects. Like a few weeks ago, I made a demo where you could just like put a Mac on the table, and if you had like glasses on, you would be able to use it as if it was actually there. And that
That
seems like
blows my mind.
super cool. Yeah.
Yeah, what about Reality Kit?
Oh, Reality Kit. They demoed it to me there. It makes it so easy to deal with like dealing with physics. Like for example, in 2018, I made Jenga in augmented reality, and when he was demoing it to me, he literally just put a whole bunch of blocks on the screen and like remade my whole playground within like 30 minutes with physics and everything, and you're able to just put it on the table.
That's crazy. Yeah, and I love that demo, by the way. Your demo specifically for your 2018 submission.
Yeah, thank you. I spent a lot of time on those.
Yeah, so for maybe for some of the listeners who don't know what Reality Kit is, can you kind of explain it in a nutshell?
Yeah, so Reality Kit is basically like if you ever use SceneKit, you would have a scene file, and you're able to like drag and drop 3D objects, and then you could render the scene. Reality Kit is they use like Reality Composer, so that you could just drag like similar to SceneKit, you could just drag the file in, and it would handle all the physics for you, and talking through other devices for physics, which is super hard to do because you have to sync all the physics together. Adding animations is difficult, and it'll handle all that for you.
Yeah, that's like when I saw them announce that, I thought, oh, it's finally possible for me to dive into this stuff because I always
Yeah,
thought like, I have no 3D programming. I'm not like super good at math, and I always thought it was kind of beyond my reach. And so I never really took a dive into looking at it. But with Reality Composer, it makes me feel like, oh, I can just drag and drop these the
yeah, and
3D models in there, and I
yeah,
don't have to worry about at least that part of it.
yeah, and it's extremely smooth too. Like when I was using it, I've used Blender before, and it's so simpler. You really don't need any experience. It's the icons, everything is just so simple. There's not too many options, but like it's extremely configurable, and you could do so much with it. They've been spending so much time on it, and it came out like really good. Like the UI, I was looking at it when he was demoing it to me, and when I was using it, and it's just so easy to use.
But you didn't have any of those tools for your scholarship submissions because you've worked with ARKit for all three of your submissions. Right? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you submitted for the last 3 years.
Yeah, so for the first year, I used SceneKit. It's only SceneKit, and it was a Rubik's Cube in space. So that was all done in SceneKit, and it had these cool animations where it would first show up scrambled, and then it would have this like explosion animation, and they would go into space, kind of like a planet breaking up, and then they would come back scrambled, and then you would have to unsolve it. And all those animations and everything were done in SceneKit, and you could see it on GitHub too. The next year, I turned it into ARKit and 3D. So in the backend structure is all SceneKit really. ARKit is basically SceneKit, just instead of using a virtual camera and a virtual coordinate system, you will scan the table, it'll create a coordinate system for you, and then it'll use your phone's actual camera as the camera, and then it will place your scene on the table as if it's a SceneKit scene. So it's essentially the same thing, except it's using your real camera and a real coordinate system instead of a virtual one.
All
So
right.
yeah, so I made some cool physics animations with particle systems. That's like an introduction scene, and then you could place the Jenga on the table. You could switch between 3D and AR, and then you could play Jenga. And then the next year, this year, I made an AR solar system builder. So you could place a sun on a table or on a floor or something, and then you could walk around, and where you're standing, you could add planets, and they will revolve around the sun. You could change the mass, the distance, and the radius, and see how the planet will like speed up and slow down, or how it'll get bigger or slower, kind of like teaching you physics and how the planets can like interact. And you could even add moons and as many planets as you want.
Yeah, I think that would be a great tool for education, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. The main reason why I made it was because in AP Physics, it's hard to like, you get questions like, if planet X distance from the sun increased by 2, what would happen to its velocity? And you could see exactly how it could speed up or slow down depending on the changes.
That's so cool. So you took all those equations from what you were learning in school, and you just
Yep,
built.
exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Was it challenging for you to build those? Like, were you challenging yourself?
Yeah, definitely, because I've never made like a solar system like that would actually be to scale like that, and I never dealt with like converting an educational thing into like an actual AR scene that was accurate too, because you want to make sure it's accurate so that and visual so you could see everything happening.
Yeah. Like, how cool would it be if in classrooms in the future, right, you just have that thing on your desk and you can just interact with it instead of just seeing a diagram in a book?
Yeah, exactly. It's so much more. It's much a better learning experience.
Yeah. Now, since you've won like you've been chosen 3 times in a row, like, and this question is for the WWDC 2020 scholars, but what's your thought process when you think about building your submission?
Well, I always try to do better than the previous year because I know every year more people apply. So the main thing I try to do is I use the latest new technologies. So ARKit, for example, when it came out, I went right to ARKit. Something with like CoreML and CreateML because you're using new technologies by Apple. So it's like really relevant. They like when you use new technologies and take advantage of it. So that's like the main thing is to use new technologies, do something like creative. Like for example, like a Rubik's Cube isn't creative, right? You've seen so many Rubik's Cubes, but like I added all these animations to it and like all these background effects, and then it became creative because it's not just a Rubik's Cube. There's like a story behind it about how like it's unscrambled and then it explodes and then it becomes scrambled and you have to solve it. And similar with my Jenga, just putting Jenga on the table, I did that in like a day. But then I added realistic textures, like the reflections on the wood, and it kind of looked really realistic. And just like making Jenga, but making it detailed, adding like a twist to it that makes it like creative, so that it has like a better effect on them because they see so many submissions. They want something that's that shows like a little bit of your creativity and also technical aspects with like new technologies.
Yeah, it looked really good. And guys, I'll include the links in the notes so you guys can go check it out as well. And how about for your latest one? How did you come up with that idea? Oh wait, you told us.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was through
yeah.
school. But when you set out to do it, did you have an idea of how you would accomplish it at all?
I knew I had some knowledge from my previous submissions, but some things I had no clue about. Like for for the actual planets, right? I've never made planets before, right? And I didn't want to just download some planet from the internet. So this is where also your creativity could show, where you have this problem, you don't know how to solve it. So for me, instead of just downloading it from the internet and making like a actual solar system, what I did was I found textures in my house. Like for example, the first planet you place is actually my shirt, a tie-dye
Oh,
shirt that I had. So what I did was I scanned in a shirt on my printer and I used that as the texture. So every single planet you see is a physical object scanned in by the printer. So there's aluminum foil is one of them. The sun is actually a pillow in my room. It's a blue pillow, and what I did was I put it in Photoshop and I changed the tint to be orange, so it looks like a sun and it kind of looks like the flames are coming out. A tie-dye shirt, a folder, one of my notebooks, and you would have no idea. Like it actually looks like planets because it captures the texture.
yeah, I actually didn't know that you did that, but that's so cool. So how did you tell them? Are there notes that you add to your
Yeah,
submission?
yeah.
I see.
So there's three essays. Two of them are optional, but the first essay is tell us about your playground. So you could write up to 500 words explaining all the creative things that you put into your playground. Because if I didn't explain that, then they would have no idea. They would have thought I just downloaded it. So that's your chance to like show how you solve these problems and your creativity behind it.
Very, very cool. And you shared the source code for all of this stuff.
Yeah, all of it is on GitHub.
Now, can you tell us a bit about what happened? You know, and it goes it goes along with how we met too on Instagram.
Yeah. So so when I first started in 2016, I wanted to make a game. It's on the App Store. It's called the Spin Zone, and I was having trouble when I first made it. There was no examples online. Like for example, I wanted to hook up Game Center. The only thing I had was Apple documentation, which is not the best sometimes. I wanted like example code. So when I finally got it all finished and all ready, I wanted to put it on GitHub so that other people could also like use it and learn from it. A few weeks later, I found that all of a sudden my views were going up to 100,000, and I'm like,
Wow.
where are all these views coming from, right? And actually, a week later, App Store Connect announced a new feature where you could see where all your views are coming from. So all of a sudden, I'm like, whoa, I can actually see where they're coming from. And they're coming from this random app. So I go into the app, and it's my app. And then I tracked it a little bit more, and I found out it was actually number 16 in the entertainment category in China.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
And
crazy.
then later on, this happened again, and it was also becoming popular. I found it on the App Store, and I saw like that it was getting a lot of ratings. A lot of people were on the leaderboards. it was called Ring-O or something. And then I followed it a little bit more. I saw it had an Instagram page. Then I saw that it was connected with, it had stories connecting with you. And then I saw my app like all over the place on these random websites without any credit from me.
Man.
And yeah, so.
That must have been so hard. Like, were you able to get them taken down?
Yes, so they were on Product Hunt. That was taken down. The App Store, it's all gone off the App Store. And it was also on your Instagram page because they apparently submitted it to you, making it look like that they made it, but they actually didn't.
Yeah, so that was I had the app icon on the app frame behind my wall because someone had submitted it to me, and it turns out that they had just stolen the code from Nick. Yeah, that sucks, man. And then you're putting this out there for other people to learn from, right? And it's just so sad. So where is it now? And I see that you've put it on the App Store under your name.
Yes, it's on my name. And well, the other people, what they also did was they added ads to it. So for me, I would never, I don't like ads because they're really not user friendly. If I were ever to like make money off an app, I would do in-app purchases, but they put ads in. The one that I told you about before, who made it super high, they were getting 100,000 downloads in, I think, a few weeks. He was making $150 a day off of it until I got it taken down. Yeah, so it's like really sad to see. It's cool because your app is like out there and it's getting downloads, but at the same time, you have no credit to it. Someone else is taking credit to it. Someone else is earning money from it. So it's really sad to see.
So it was just a verbatim copy, except with ads on it.
Exactly, yeah. And the reason how I found it was because they didn't change the link. So when you click the rate button, it took you to my app instead of their app, which is why I was getting so many views.
I see. That guy probably didn't even know what he was looking at in terms of the code. Yeah. Can you tell us about the other apps that you have on the store?
Yeah, so I have one more app on the store right now. It's called Smiley.
I love it.
And what it does is, thank you. What it does is it takes pictures automatically when you're smiling. So if you have like 5 people, you hold the phone up, it'll highlight who's not smiling in red, and once you tell them to smile, it'll take the picture.
It's so convenient because I'm sure everyone has run into this problem before. And also when you're trying to take a selfie, it's hard for you to get the right angle and then also reach your thumb over and press the button.
Exactly, yeah. So that's one of the reasons how I came up with the idea. My family, we would like to take like group selfies. And what would happen is my mom would get everyone ready. We would all be smiling. She goes to take the picture and she locks the phone instead of clicking the volume button. Or it's hard to like reach and make sure everyone's face is in it. So it'll like account for all of that, automatically take it. And another cool feature of it is if you ever use like a timed mode. One time when I was hiking, me and my dad were hiking and we wanted to take a picture of us sitting on a tree, which is across the lake, right? And it took us like a minute to get on the tree. So with my app, I just set it on the floor, pointing at us. We go and we climb up the tree, sit on the log, and it was like a minute later. And then we look at the camera, we smile, and then it takes the picture.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Talk about scratching your own itch, right?
Yeah. And it uses, I made this right after WWDC last year. After I went to one of the vision labs, I figured out how to combine vision, create ML, and core ML to make it super accurate.
Wow.
And at WWDC, I actually got some tips from actual Apple designers on how to make the interface a little better, support iPad a little bit better, figure out better placement, some new ideas on how to make it better. Like, for example, we were thinking of blink detection so that not only you're smiling, but also you're not blinking.
That's awesome. And I think because you figured this out on your own and it wasn't like an out-of-the-box solution, that there aren't many copycats, at least from what I can see.
Yeah.
Have you tried to look?
I've looked for other apps that do this, and apparently Samsung does this. I found out afterwards. I've never used it on a Samsung device, but from what people have told me, mine works much better than Samsung's.
Wow.
I haven't found one that works as good as mine or on iOS. I've seen other Smile apps, but they don't work at all. Like, I don't know. I think they're just randomly taking a picture because I'm not smiling and it's taking the picture.
There's a startup idea right there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I noticed that all of the apps that you have, there's no in-app purchases. It doesn't cost any money. And, have you tried to make money off your apps before?
Yeah, so right now, my apps definitely could make money. I think Smiley has taken 300,000 pictures so far. I haven't tried to make any money off of it, mostly because I want to spend my time like more like learning than figuring out how to do in-app purchases, kind of. Because I could figure out like here I could put like a watermark, and you pay 99 cents to get rid of the watermark. It's something I would definitely want to do because I spend a lot of time on it, but it's not like a priority. Like it's not the main reason why I do it.
That's awesome. I actually had Adrian from our team. He was trying to fool it. He couldn't fool it.
Yeah,
So
it's
if you guys,
very accurate.
you guys got to check out this app. So, how did you get to this point in terms of skill and also discovering coding and falling in love with it? Because it sounds to me like you have a real passion for it.
Yeah, it's just coming up with ideas, wanting to do something, having no clue how to do it, and just figuring it out as you go. Because when I first started Smiley, the model, it was not accurate at all. Like it barely worked, but I knew like it kind of worked. So at first I had no clue what to do. I looked through Apple's documentation for the vision framework, CreateML, CoreML, and they have really good documentation. So that's like a great place to look at. And you could just like figure it out as you go. You could Google. I spent a lot of time Googling. It took me a week to make the data set, and I had no clue about machine learning or any of it before. But asking questions to other people like who know about machine learning. When I went to WWDC, I went to the labs and I just asked them questions on how I could get into it, what tools I should use. I watched a lot of YouTube tutorials before I started it, and then when I had the idea, I knew I wanted to do it. I knew it was definitely possible. Like I could definitely do it. It was just a matter of how to use CreateML, CoreML, and Vision to actually do it.
That's awesome. But going back even further, like when did you first start programming?
So that was when I was about 13 and seventh grade, and I would play Minecraft a lot, and it was very popular, and it still is. Which they actually just presented Minecraft in AR, which is cool. But yeah, that's how I got started, because what would happen is I would go on a server, right? They would have all these cool plugins, and one day someone joined and they were like, go look at my plugin. And it was a very simple plugin, and then I'm just like, maybe I could do this. So I made my own plugin, and it got, after like a ton of like YouTube tutorials, a ton of figuring out how to do it, I was 13, I published my own one, and it got, I think it has about 160,000 downloads right now. And that's how I first started, just because I wanted to just know how to do it, because I would play the game and I wanted to like actually know how can I make my own, and I wanted to just share it and see. It's really cool to see your own plugin on a server that other people are playing with. And then from there, I made more. I made one that was paid, and I started earning money from it. And then from that point, when I finished, it was 2014. Swift came out, and a year later, I really wanted to get into app development because there's such a big audience there. I'm not just limited to a specific market. And then I got into iOS. I learned Swift. I bought, I think, 2 books, and I watched some really good videos. I remember you were one of the first people I started watching. I specifically remember, I think it was like a card game.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I had a couple of those out there, those tutorials.
Yeah, I remember the
dice roll one.
Yeah, that one. The felt background before for the iOS 7 change.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you just basically did a lot of Googling and self-study.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, for me, what really helps me is like reading books. I bought an iOS book and a Swift book, and also Swift's main like Swift book that they released. And when I did Minecraft, I really didn't know Minecraft plugins. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just like typing stuff, seeing if it worked, watching YouTube tutorials, like copy and pasting. And then the cool thing is when you do that, even though you have no idea what you're doing, you pick up on like patterns that are happening, and then when you actually go to learn it, right? When you look at like design patterns and how to actually read documentation, you look back at that and you're like, you think of, you're like, I want to rewrite the whole thing, because you realize there's so many better ways to do it, and you realize why things are in place.
Wow. So you were able to create a whole bunch of Minecraft plugins and you had no idea what you were doing.
Yeah, yeah. And then when you finally figure out what you're doing, it's much easier because you've been doing it. You didn't know why you were doing it, but then you learn why you're doing it, and you're like, oh, that's why that's it. There's like a lot of like click moments where you're just like, oh, that's why I was doing that. And then it all just, it's like, it's hard because like it's self-taught, but there's a lot of moments where it just clicks in and you're like, you just realize what you're doing. And then from there, you could take it to other stuff, and it just makes so much more sense.
But that's such a good feeling, right? Once you just, it clicks.
Yes, exactly. So all the time, like debugging and figuring out why something will work, it all like pays off when you finally like understand what it is.
That's awesome. So was Spin Zone your first iOS app then?
Yes, it was my first iOS app.
Oh, wow. Oh, look at that. It was a huge success from the get-go, your first app.
Yeah. Yeah. Then I added like Force Touch, and I designed the whole UI. I went through like 15 different iterations of the UI until I finally decided on it. And it took me a couple of months because I had no clue what I was doing then.
Did you have any idea about game development and the process of figuring out whether it's fun or not, all of that?
For that, I mostly just, I figured it was like one of those addictive games, like you just keep clicking and trying to escape the circle. And then I would like give it to other people, and they were like, oh, this is fun, and they would get addicted, and then I would see them using it. And then for actually designing it, since I'm not a designer, I've never designed before, it was just a matter of like, does this look good? Does this not look good? How can I do this in SpriteKit? Is it possible?
And it worked out. It worked out really well. Right. Because I've read about game development a little bit, and it seems like they go through such a rigorous process just to find an idea that is fun. And then they build upon that, and then they take it to the finished product. But, you were your own guinea pig.
Yeah, just keep testing it. And actually the idea originally, I saw an icon somewhere on GitHub, somewhere where it had this like ring with like a hole in it. And then I was just looking at it, and then the idea just came into place. Like, what if you're trying to escape that one, and then it's like in a circle, coming to escape.
Are you planning to make any more games?
Well, right now I'm more focusing on more productive, like productivity or utilities that can like make things easier for you, or something that's with like AR that's useful than games. Because games are really cool, but there's just so many games out there, and I wanted to make something that's useful, like Smiley. I figure if you hand someone a game, they play it for a day or two, maybe a week, and then they get bored of it. Where if you make like a productivity app, they're like, whenever they go to take a picture, they take out Smiley, and there it is. It's something that they keep coming back to, and they like, it helps them, which is very satisfactory to me, to see people using it, and like looking at my dashboard and seeing hundreds, sometimes thousands of pictures getting taken daily.
Awesome. That's so awesome. Do you have any other ideas? And I don't want you to spoil something that you're working on, but
Oh yeah.
Do you have plans for more ARKit apps
Yes.
coming up? Are you working on stuff?
Definitely, especially with all the new stuff that they announced. I have like a notes app with like a whole bunch of ideas, like dozens of ideas, and I'm trying to go through, pick the best one, and more ideas coming with all the new stuff and stuff that are available in the new frameworks.
Mm-hmm. So about that, if you have, I always have a ton of app ideas too, but I never can figure out, like I might start a bunch of them, but it's hard to take it to the end. Like it's really, really hard to complete a project, at least for me. Do you have any trouble with that?
Yes, I do, but the main way that I get past that is by picking a topic that I really, really enjoy, and it just like sucks you in. Like for example, when I made Smiley, at first I didn't want to, I was kind of hesitant to even start because there's so many roadblocks that you don't know of. But then once you start and you see that the one little point where it actually works, like the first model, it didn't work, but it had a label that would kind of tell if you're smiling or not in like perfect conditions. And then from there, like it sucks you in. You're like, well, what if I can make this better? And then I make it better, and then it works. It actually works. And then the UI, I'm like, how can I make the UI good? And then the first one looks bad, but then I get a little hint of like, this is actually really cool. And then I make the UI super nice. Like I was spending like, I would wake up at like 8 and go to bed at like 2 at some points, like just working on the app, trying to make it super perfect because like I was super interested in it, and I just wanted to show people, but I didn't show them until it was done. And I wanted to, like, thinking of that it's going to be on the App Store and you're finally able to show it kind of motivates you to work and make it perfect, so that when it's on the store and you go send it to somebody, you're like really proud of it, and it motivates you to make it really good and to keep going, even though at some points there were some crazy bugs or it got rejected from the App Store twice, but still it motivates you to keep going and eventually share it with everybody. And then to see it on the store, it's a really good feeling afterwards.
That's such a good way to approach it, because for me, it's always thinking about, oh, how viable is this idea in terms of, does it have legs to gain an audience and to, be monetized and stuff like that. But if it doesn't align with your passion and what you're interested in, then it's really hard to do it for that reason.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if it's something you will use, like my family uses this app, my app, like whenever we take a picture, and it motivates you because it's actually going to be used, even if it's not used by everybody and it doesn't like grab super attention. You're making it so that if you like it, I'm sure a bunch of people will like it and have the same problem that needs to get solved.
Yeah, that's going to be the way that I approach it from now on. So you're in school right now, first year?
Yes, I just finished my first year.
Oh, awesome. Congrats on that.
Thank you. So
you also had interviews with Apple is it like for a part-time job, for a full-time job? What was that about?
It was for an internship in the summer.
Okay.
So I had a few weeks ago in February, I had an interview request from the ARKit team. So I got an email from a recruiter asking for my availability so that they could schedule an interview for me. And then the next day, I got another interview request from the SBG team, which is the special product group, which is working on all the special projects at Apple. Like, for example, before the Apple Watch was announced, they were the ones who were all of the design for it and getting the first prototype out and seeing, is this a good product? They're probably working on a whole bunch of secret stuff right now that no one knows about.
Yeah, that sounds like a cool team to be on.
Definitely.
So how was that interview process like?
Yeah, so what happens is the recruiter reaches out to you. They ask, are you interested? And of course, it's Apple. And then they ask for your availability. A day later, or a day or two later, another person messages you confirming the time slot. You message back, you confirm with them, and then you will talk with an actual engineer on the team. So sometimes the technical interview where they'll actually take you to a website and they give you a programming question and you actually have to solve it. You could use any language that you want. Even I remember one of them, they said I could use pseudocode. They just wanted to make sure that the fundamentals and you could figure out a problem. They don't care about do you know how to write Swift? You can use any language as long as you can tackle a problem and solve it. And then those are technical interviews. And then there's another type of technical interviews where they just ask general questions about your experience, and they usually tie it to what they're working on. Like if they ask you a question about some UI, how would you design a UI, or what kind of design patterns do you know? Do you know what MVC is? Questions like that. Those are less stressful because they're not giving you an actual question that you have to type out in front of them and explain your thinking. And then those are the two types of interviews. I think I had 2 for each team, so 4 in total. And one was technical, where I was solving the problem, and another was just a talk with another member on the team to make sure you're a good fit, your skill set aligns with their skill set. And a really important thing is every team is different. For the ARKit team, they asked me totally different questions than the SBG team because every team is different. So they normally ask data structure questions, but some teams don't even ask that. Some teams just talk with you for a little bit and then they see if you're a good fit, and then you would get an email with an offer to actually internship. So they're both for an internship for summer 2019, which is this summer.
That's so awesome because I didn't know that they just reach out to people for internships. I thought, wow, is Nick going to quit school and go work for Apple full time? But
Yeah.
what are your career goals for after school? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I think right now, right, I wanted to. The cool thing right now is I could just try a whole bunch because I have like another 3 years to decide exactly. But the cool thing is I have my summers open so that I can internships, right? So I internshipped at a startup to see like what is it like working at a startup, like a very, very, very small startup. Then this year I'm working at a bigger company, and then next year I could work at an even bigger company and see like, do I want to work at a small company? Do I want to work at a big company? Or if I have a really good app idea, I just don't have to work at a company at all, and I could work on my own stuff. So right now I'm more testing to see what kind of like culture I like. I have a few more spaces open for internships so that I could even like pick between different companies. If I get an internship at Google and then one at Apple, I could really see what the atmosphere is like, and then when I graduate, try and get a full-time position, or even just make my own company with my own app if I have an idea then.
Yeah, it certainly looks like you have no shortage of app ideas.
Yeah, and I'm doing this not because I want to work at Apple or something. It's more because I want to like see fully all the choices available. I don't want to be super narrow and be like, oh, I want to make a company, because what if I go to a company, I really like it, or if I don't have an app idea, and even though I want to make a company, I don't want to force an app idea just to make a company, because then I'm not really doing something that I want to do. I'm just doing it so I could have a company, or just working at a company because I want to work at that company. I like to have I want to try a whole bunch of stuff and see which one I like the best.
Now, is there anything at school that helps you with these internships, or are you looking for these yourself?
So my college, I go to Georgia Tech, and what they do is a lot of companies visit us, and we're able to talk directly with recruiters. So for example, Uber will visit, Amazon, Facebook, Google, they all come here, and you can talk directly with the recruiters. And there's special sessions throughout the year where it's like how to ace your Google interview, and they give you Google interview questions that were in the past. They give you mock interviews. The career fair, there's a career fair that comes here where there's tons of companies, and you can just go up to a company and learn more about them, see if they have any internships available.
Oh, that's such a cool process.
Yeah,
That's so
it's
good.
very nice.
Yeah. Now, beyond apps, do you have any other, I guess, passions you want to pursue that try out? It's all related to apps.
Ooh, I think drone flying. That seems super fun. Yeah, a few of my friends have a few drones, and that seems really cool to do.
That's cool. I've never flown one myself.
Yeah, and you could you could design your own one. You build it. You order the parts. It's like
wow.
Yeah, you're building your own thing, and then you get to see it fly.
Wow, that's cool. And you can outfit them however you want.
Yeah.
So, last thing I want to ask you is any advice you can give to other young students who are trying to pursue either computer science or software engineer and they're not sure that it's for them?
I would definitely even if you don't know how to do something, try not to be very doubtful and just do it, because if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But being like, oh, it's not going to work, that just puts you in a block, and you'll never be able to actually try. Like when I first started with plugins, if I was like, oh, I can't do that, a lot of people, friends of mine, they're like, wow, you can make apps? I would never know how to do that. And automatically they're failing because they're saying they can't. But if you are motivated and you research and you're interested in it, it'll definitely just come to you, and you will just want to learn how to do it. And then just Google, YouTube, books, try to figure out your best way of learning. Mine was books, so I just went through and got a whole bunch of Swift books or Java books, design pattern books, and then find your best way of learning, and then just focus on doing that way.
That's such good advice, because your mindset has so much to do with, what you can and can't do.
Yeah, because it's a lot of a mindset. If you go into a project, or when I did Smiley, if I was just like detecting smiles, I need to be a machine learning like professional. But you don't. If you just Google, like you have Google, if you just Google and you don't like try and doubt everything and actually try, that's like the first step. And then if it works, then it pulls you in, and then you want to try more stuff.
Yeah. And, ironically, this is the trap that I just demonstrated in this chat, because I was telling you before about ARKit, right? And about 3D models, I'm like, oh, I don't know how to do that. But see, so it is such good advice.
I didn't either. I had no clue how to do it when I started my first, when I did my first playground in it. I had no clue how to do it. And then if you just Google it, read Apple documentation, find a book or a video or whatever the best way to do it is, then you're like, I don't know how to do that. And then you go read a tutorial, you place a block on the table, and it's very simple, but then it pulls you in, because you're like, whoa, I just put a block on the table. And then you can put more blocks and add animations, and then you come up with an idea, and then you can make it do something. And then it just keeps on adding.
So just to wrap it up, any last words that you want to mention where people can find out more about you, or where they can connect with you?
Yeah, I have Twitter, Instagram. Those are both at Nicholas Grana with 2 A's. So NicholasGrana. My direct messages are open. So like people message me all the time, like asking for advice, and I always respond. Always.
That's awesome.
That's a great way to get to me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for coming on this chat.
Yeah, thank you.
I learned a ton about ARKit. It's super inspiring to hear about your story and your attitude, that you take towards these things. And, my takeaway from this is that, I need to adopt some of that attitude of yours, right?
Yeah.
And the sky's the limit. And with the resources that are available now, I don't think anybody should say that they can't do something.
Yeah, and I also started like in that position, watching your videos, like the same exact resources everyone else has. It's just a matter of using them. I remember I was watching my first WWDC, right? And they're like, congratulations to our scholarship winners. And I'm like, I want to be a scholarship winner and go there. And then I figured out how to do it. And then I just did it.
Awesome. So you were at WWDC before you were a scholar.
Oh, when I was watching on the live stream at my house. Yeah.
That's an amazing story. Okay, well, thank you so much again. And you guys, you know where to find Nick. Hope to chat with you again. I'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.
That's Nick Grana, and to hear more about what he's working on or to get some advice, you can follow him on Twitter or Instagram at Nicholas Grana. That's NicholasGrana. And thanks so much for listening to the show. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing to the show wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, please leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people. Special thanks to Nick Grana for joining the show, and to Adrian Velez who produced this episode. I'm Chris Ching, and you've been listening to iOS Big Talk.